In around 5 months, we will know which 3 teams are going down from the Championship, but at this stage in the season, we can get a good idea of who's going to be down there. So today, I'm going to look at the teams at the bottom, the squads, the tactics, and the underlying data to see who might be playing League One football next season. So let's get into it. So let's begin with the team currently at the bottom of the Championship, Hull City. After a disappointing home defeat to Blackburn, Hull have now lost 6 games in a row. During that time, of course, Tim Mortal was sacked, and it's fair to say he wasn't exactly loved by the Hull fans. Not only was he saying some questionable things in interviews, but the performances and results just weren't good enough. So Ruben Sellers has been appointed and was in attendance for that game and would have seen just how much work he needs to do. You know, he's had a good spell at Reading despite off-the-field problems, but he's got a real challenge here to keep the Tigers in the division. And after 19 games, Hull are bottom, 4 goals scored, and one of the just 4 teams still averaging under a goal a game. However, they are 11th for XG this season with 23 XG, despite only finishing 17 goals, which might suggest that some of their problems lie in the finishing department rather than creating them. So if they can sort that out, things could turn for the Tigers. They do also often have a lot of the ball, as only 3 teams have averaged more possession this season in the Championship. They've got 56.6 average possession, but it was clear that under Walter they had the ball but just weren't doing enough with it. Overall, this whole side is one which I feel lacks like a lot of quality, with exceptions to players like Palmer. A good January window and good management from Sellers, and I think this side can definitely stay in the division, and I'll give my final predictions at the end. Next up in 23rd place is my team Pompey, and it's worth noting we have only played 17 games this season, whilst all the other teams around us have played 18 or 19, and it is tight, so if we win both our games in hand, we would be in 14th place, but there's a big emphasis on the if there. But Portsmouth are in a really good bit of form at the moment, our best of the season, and it feels like belief and confidence has been restored at Fratton Park. That's 2 consecutive home wins against Preston and Bristol City, the first time we've managed that since March, and both those games we never looked like losing, and both were very fast starts, which is something that we struggled with at the start of the season against Leeds and Luton and games like that. And in between those 2 games, a trip to Swansea, which I think we're unlucky not to get all 3 points from, considering the fact we were 2-0 up at half time. Said from the start of the season that if we can just win our games at home, we will be fine in this division. I've seen more than enough in the last 3 games to show that we can stay up comfortably in the Championship. It can't be underestimated the effect that Colby Bishop's return has had to the team. 2 goals in 3 games, and also picked up an assist yesterday. His hold-up play in particular has inspired this good run of form, and Josh Murphy on the left has been incredible in recent games as well. 3 goals and 2 assists in the last 3 for him. Then there's Callum Lang. Wow, I mean, run out of words from this season. Always running, always pressing, created so many chances from high press. It's going to be a big miss due to suspension on Tuesday, but 5 goals this season for him. And then there's Super Matt Ritchie still playing like a madman, running around at 35 to finish off that front 4, which has been so good recently. And how could I not mention Terry Devlin, one of our best players this season, physically so strong, mentally so strong, and an insane work rate too. So overall, John Messina's men have really turned the season around, but it is a long way to go. But if we can keep this form up, I think we will be fine. Big game on Tuesday against the deflated Norwich side at home. I'll give my final verdict at the end. Next up, Wayne Rooney's Plymouth side sit 22nd place so far in the division. But when you look at the underlying data for most statistics, they have been the worst team in the division. Of course, it's not all about the data, but even the eye test has been questionable at best and seem to be picking up points in games where they really shouldn't have, particularly at home where they always seem to get something. They've had the worst defence in the league so far and have only scored 18 goals all season, and they're also last by some distance on expected goals with 12.7. Oxford have had the least next with 18, and that shows they're outscoring the XG by 6 goals, and surely that will catch up with them at some point. And it just doesn't seem like this can carry on, and it's not a sustainable way of playing. Not only that, but they've also conceded the most XG too, and purely based on stats, it really looks clearly like they are the weakest team in the division. They do seem to find these results at home park, and whilst I honestly don't rate Rooney as a manager, giving credit where it's due, I think he gives this reasonably young group of players, he allows them to play with freedom in attacking areas of the pitch, but of course it's not always working perfectly, particularly in recent games. The last 2 games have had an aggregate score of 10-1 against them, so there's of course huge need for improvement. And I don't think anyone was expecting Morgan Whittaker to replicate his form from last season, but the lack of his goals are certainly hindering their progress. And similar to Hull, I think there's a real lack of quality in this squad. And I'm not sure if they will spend big in January. I highly doubt it, but I think they're in desperate need of some improvement all over the pitch. Now, those are the bottom 3 teams as it stands, but this relegation battle goes far beyond that. I think potentially even up to 14th of Coventry. Only 6 points separating 14th and 24th, so it's incredibly tight. So let's touch on some of the other teams. Cardiff is a strange one. Sacks Errol Bullitt, gave Omar Ritza the interim job, did well, still didn't appoint a manager, started doing badly, gave him the job. So questionable decisions, but it's without a win in 5 for them now, which has seen them being dragged down back into the relegation fight. Overall this season they have struggled with goals averaging 0.9 a game, only scoring 17, which is the joint worst. And their defence isn't much better either, conceding 28. But I do feel, as opposed to the teams around them, they do have that kind of quality, those star players, which might just be enough to keep them safe. You know, the likes of Callum Robinson, Ruben Colwell and Alexander Robertson. They all look really good so far and could very well be helpful in their survival. It was a big win for QPR the weekend, beating Norwich 3-0 at home, and a much needed win too, which thanks to the postponements elsewhere bumped them up from bottom to 20th. The last 3 games have shown that Rangers may have turned a new leaf with 2 wins and a draw, as well as no goals conceded. Overall this season it's not been good enough from Marty Cifuentes' men, still averaging under a goal per game and actually underperforming their XG so far with 18 goals from 19.7 XG. Meanwhile, at the other end of the pitch, they've been slightly better than the teams around them, but they've still shipped 26 goals this season. And similar to Pompey, it looks like they may be turning their season around somewhat, and I do think this squad is good enough to do so. So hopefully from a QPR point of view, they can continue this momentum. I always felt it was a matter of time until their fast start caught up with them and Oxford got dragged into the relegation battle, and they certainly have now. They find themselves in some pretty awful form without a win in 4 and conceding 10 in the last 3. A big drop off from the 3 wins in the opening 6 games, and since that they've only won 1 game, and that was against bottom of the league Hull City. Overall the U's haven't been too bad going forward, scoring 20, averaging 1.1 goals a game, however are averaging 1.6 goals conceded a game. Granted, that Middlesbrough game will have tinted that stat a bit, but it shows that there are some real defensive issues for Des Buckingham's side. Mark Harris started this season really well but has dropped off in recent weeks, but we have seen Dane Scarlett step up and he's bagged 4 so far this season, and I think Gregory Lee has been also a standout performer for Oxford so far. But similar to some of the other teams, it does seem to be a lack of that real championship quality star players. Now obviously there's loads of other teams in this relegation battle. I won't go over all of them today. Anyone from 24th to 14th is in at the moment, particularly I think Derby County and Preston are in some real trouble. But from these teams I'm going to attempt to predict my bottom 3 come the end of the season. They're going to be wrong. If I put your team down here, sorry, it's probably good. It probably means you'll stay up because I normally get these wrong. So in 24th I've gone for Plymouth, just the team that I've been least impressed with. Even though Pompey lost when we went there, I thought they were probably the worst team I've seen, and we've beaten teams 3-1 and 3-0. So not only is the underlying data showing them by far the worst team, they also look really bad. They're outperforming their XG a lot. It's going to catch up with them. I think that Wayne Rooney's side are going to go down, unfortunately for them. Then the other 2, I don't know. Obviously I'm not going to put Pompey down there because I'm biased, but 22nd I've gone for Hull, which I think that might be a bit surprising, but I have doubts over whether Ruben Sellers can really transform this team. I think he'll need more time. I think he'll need backing in January. Whether I'll get that or not, I'm not sure. And I think it will be a kind of go down to League One rebuild with Sellers at the helm next season. So the final spot, this could be anyone. I think if you said any of these teams, you couldn't disagree. I've gone for Cardiff. Have I? Sure, why not? Cardiff. I'm not fully sold on Omar Ritza. I think the new manager bounce kind of helped him out there a little bit. Like I said earlier, I think they do have a lot of good players, and when it goes well for them, it goes well. But I just have my doubts. It's a gut feeling really. I can't really explain it. I just think Cardiff might go down. But there you go, that's my final predictions. That is who I think is going to go down. Let me know who you think is going to go down in the comments. Let's say Portsmouth if that's wrong. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.